A warm welcome to you, Excellency, Mr. Syed Muazzem. He is High Commissioner of Bangladesh to India. He was born in British India in 1944 in Sylhet. Then it became East Pakistan, and now it's an independent country, Bangladesh. Okay, and he was educated in Dhaka University. Then he trained for his profession in Lahore, New York, and Washington. He has represented his country in as many as 11 countries all over the world. He has been here before, and he was one of the first diplomats in 1971 when he was working in the Pakistan High Commission in Washington to declare his allegiance to the government of Bangladesh.
I think I was here last time just before Prime Minister Modi's visit to Dhaka. That was sometime 2015, sometime in May. So I'm here roughly after a year and a half. Within this 1.5 years, there has been significant, profound changes all over the world. There have been election of new leadership in major countries. There have been major significant developments. Sometimes the international relations went through various seesaw kind of situation. But even within this turbulent international scenario, Bangladesh and India relationship has moved forward, and we have been able to strengthen and consolidate our bilateral relations to a new level. Our multifaceted relations are rooted in our shared history, geographical proximity, and commonality in our culture and heritage. And as you rightly pointed out, as a freedom fighter diplomat serving in Washington, D.C. way back in 1971, I had the privilege of being one of the founding members of Bangladesh mission over there. And certainly, I vividly recall the support and cooperation which I received from our Indian friends and our Indian colleagues during the critical days of our nationhood. I think that is the proudest moment of my career, and I will always feel proud that I had the privilege of taking part in Bangladesh liberation war. The emotional bond stemming from that invaluable contribution of the government and people of India during Bangladesh's war of liberation, led by our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, remain a dominant factor in the country's political, cultural and social life. Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of the nation, soon after our independence, had laid down the foundation of our close and cooperative ties with India and had taken every step to resolve all outstanding problems between our two countries. In fact, I would like to say, as a professional diplomat, I would like to say that every relationship that has been developed between Bangladesh and India, the foundation stone was laid by Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Even the land boundary agreement that we talk about, he was the first one who took the initiative. The maritime boundary, the demarcation that we talk about, Sheikh Mujib talked about demarcation of land boundary before the law of the sea was even adopted by the international community. He said, let's do it bilaterally, but there was no basis at that time for a bilateral resolution. Anyway, so under Bangabandhu's time, we were able to make much progress. But after August 1975, we did suffer a setback. And the relationship at that time went through different crisis periods. Fortunately, his able daughter, Sheikh Hasina, took over in 1996. And at that time, we were able to make two major progress. One was the Ganges water sharing, and the other was the agreement in the Chittagong hill tracts for peace and tranquility in our peace in the Hilltrex area. But after she took over in 2008, she was able to take major steps to ensure the common security for us, common benefit for us, and on that basis she established new kind of relationship between our two countries, which has been termed happily by the former President, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, as best ever since 1974. Yes, we do have very strong and stable neighborhood. Yes, we have very cooperative ties, but let us also not try to underestimate that it is natural to have bilateral problems with one's neighbor, more so for India and Bangladesh, which share huge land and maritime boundaries and also use the common rivers, rail, road and river networks. It is heartening to note that earlier mistrust and tension between Bangladesh and India have been largely cleared. Bangladesh and India can neither change their common history and heritage, nor can they change their geography. The only way to resolve the outstanding issues between them is to sustain dialogue with an open mind. Therefore, as close neighbors, Bangladesh and India should take note of each other's sensitivities and vulnerabilities and demonstrate greater political will to establish mutually cooperative ties. I think my mission has already sent you the basic text of the speech, so I'll just read parts of it, but you can circulate the whole text to everybody. Now, in 71, when I had declared our allegiance to Bangladesh, there were some people who used to ridicule us as a bottomless basket. Where do we stand today after 4.5 decades? Well, in 1971, we used to assure our friends that we will not be dependent on the outside world for too long. And I'm very happy that today Bangladesh, under the able leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, is no longer a bottomless basket. It's a self-sufficient country in terms of its food grain. It is the second largest garment exporter. It is one of the largest economies in the world and the fourth largest rice producer. In 71, we used to produce roughly 12 million tons of rice. Today we produce about 40 million tons of rice. Our population in 71 was 75 million. Today our population is about 160. So it's a success story so far as Bangladesh is concerned. And Bangladesh today is one of the fastest growing economies. We have been able to make significant progress in terms of the Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm sure you must have noticed recently we were awarded with the Safai Giri Award on account of our fantastic progress in the area of Swachh Bharat. So it's a success story, and certainly I'm happy that we could make progress here. Now let me turn a bit on our bilateral ties. Since assumption of power for the second time, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has consistently tried to improve mutual trust and cooperation, and she has brought a change in our mindset. There is a greater recognition on both sides that the destinies of our two neighbors are inextricably linked and that we must grow together. Happily, on the other hand, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, after assumption of his office little over 3 years ago, had also expressed his keen desire to develop close ties with us. The land boundary agreement, which was originally signed by Indira Mujib in 1974, has been ratified, and the successful conclusion of the land boundary agreement has once and for all demarcated the boundaries between our two countries. Bangladesh shares the longest boundary with India. It is more than the sum total of the boundary that India shares with China and Pakistan. So at the same time, as I mentioned, we have been able to resolve the maritime boundary between our two countries. So among your 11 neighbors, perhaps Bangladesh is the only one which does not have any disputed territory with India on any account. Now, good bound borders always make for good neighbors. अच्छी बेड़ा है तो पड़ोसी से रिलेशनशिप भी अच्छी होते हैं. तो हमारा पड़ोसी का साथ हमारा बेड़ा बड़ा फिक्स्ड और बड़ा एमिकेबली हमने रिजॉल्व किया है. Now let me just go to the state, and the state point is basically on the last visit of our Prime Minister in April. As you know, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina paid a state visit here from 7 to 10 April, and the visit was a grand success as the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have taken our bilateral ties to a new level, which is well beyond the strategic partnership. The 11 agreements and 24 MOUs signed during the visit virtually encompass every important sector in our bilateral cooperation, namely security, trade, connectivity, energy, civil nuclear agreement, defense, and introduction of new bus and train services. Our private sector also made their valuable inputs when they signed MOUs for the investment to the tune of $13 billion, primarily to the energy sector. So in the past, at one stage, we were talking about bilateral relationship in millions when we exported some Jamdani sari and hill surface, and you exported some Hero motorcycle and Usha fence. Now we no longer talk in millions, we talk in billions. And both sides, we are trying to establish a kind of relationship which is sustainable and non-reversible, which will give benefit to both these sides, so that even if there is a change of government in future, our economic ties should continue to proceed from strength to strength. The visit of our Prime Minister was also high on the optics. The fact that the Prime Minister Modi broke protocol and received our Prime Minister at the airport and was present at the Shammanana on a program. Now the Shammanana is a very special program. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina decided to honor the families of the martyrs who had laid down their lives during the 1971 for the independence of our country. This is an unprecedented event because never in the history a head of state has visited another and honored personally the martyrs of those countries who had laid down their lives for their country. I didn't see this in Paris, where I was posted for 3 years before I joined as Foreign Secretary. Nobody came to honor those French and other citizens, nor the French ever went to the Americans to honor those martyrs who had laid down their lives. But we do, because that is the foundation stone of our bilateral relation. And as long as freedom fighters like me are alive, we will see to it that it remains the citadel of our bilateral ties. Now, recent visit of the Indian Prime Minister Arun Jaitley visited a few weeks ago, and he has basically tried to operationalize the number of MOUs and the line of credit which was extended by the Indian government. And it is, as you know, first LOC was for 1 billion, second LOC was for 2 billion, the third LOC has been for 4.5 billion, and it has been operationalized. Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj will be visiting Bangladesh very soon, and this is the standard joint consultative meeting. She was scheduled to visit earlier, but then because of her other consideration, she could not undertake the visit earlier, but she will be taking the visit by the end of the month. And the basic purpose of the meeting is to see and review the implementation of the decisions which were taken at the last summit meeting. Of course, there are various significant areas where we are cooperating with India at this stage. One of them is this question of security and terrorism. You would kindly recall that in the past, the security and terrorism is to bedevil our bilateral relations significantly. Because there are a number of separatist and insurgent elements who is to take shelter in our territory and is to launch different types of aggression and attacks against India. After she took over power, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina made it abundantly clear that she would show zero tolerance to any acts of terrorism. And during the last so many years, Bangladesh has steadfastly maintained that her territory has not been used for any terrorist activity. And in some cases, we have even disbanded those camps and handed over those terrorists to your side. But unfortunately, some of these terrorists are now operating from the neighboring country of Myanmar. And I do see in press from time to time that your security forces had clashed with them. But I have not seen a single such instance in Bangladesh-India relationship. So security is a primary requirement in establishment of good neighborly relationship between our two countries. Second is the energy cooperation. Why energy? Because Bangladesh and India, we are energy deficient country. We do not have any vast natural resources, but we must collaborate and we must cooperate with each other to tap the various natural resources that we have. At the moment, we have cooperation with India for different sorts of energy and power. We have the question of the thermal power projects. We have also signed the tripartite nuclear power projects. We also have the question of the bilateral agreement with the various private companies for LNG and other liquefied gas preparation. And also thermal power stations are going to be set up in Sundarban and other areas. Likewise, on the question of the bilateral trade and sub-regional connectivity. Now, let me again explain that the trade figure has gone up. Bangladesh and India today exchange about $6.5 to $7 billion worth of goods. The trade balance perhaps is in favor of India at this stage, but we do hope that with the passage of time, there will be greater degree of investment from Indian side to Bangladesh, and we will be able to establish a win-win situation where Bangladesh could produce a number of goods for the Indian market, as Mexico does for America, or as Canada does for America. Under the NAFTA treaty, both Mexico and Canada have emerged as the number 2 and number 3 trading countries for the United States. And the United States has significantly invested in those two countries. And they meet their primary import requirements from those two countries other than China. So China is number 1, followed by Canada and then Mexico in terms of importing countries. On the other hand, those two neighboring countries of Canada are the main supplier of the Canadian manpower. As regards the sub-regional connectivity and the sub-regional cooperation, Prime Minister Modi's Look Actist policy is viewed with a lot of importance in Bangladesh because we occupy a very central position in that particular region, and Bangladesh intends to play a very important role under the aegis of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Nepal in terms of connectivity. Motor vehicle agreement has been signed. 3 parties have ratified. We are going to introduce it soon. We are also talking about cooperation among the 4 regional countries for the power, energy, and other areas, tourism and other areas. Last is, I think I must mention something about people-to-people contact. We have been able to establish more and more missions here. The visa procedure has been significantly simplified, and people over 65 are now given longer-term visa. The previous problem of entry and exit to the same point has now been resolved to a great extent. We have initially 3 missions, now we have got missions in Delhi, Kolkata, Bombay, Agartala, and Guwahati. We have 5. And we are trying to open one in Chennai. So this will be 6 missions that we would like to open and Chander. So we would like to have a situation where the visa procedure and the visa acceptability should be the easiest. Personally, I am very committed to this, and I want a day to come when our people will be able to cross the border on the basis of Aadhaar card and nationality registration. We are working on that with the assistance of World Bank project, and may not be in my lifetime, but in my son's lifetime, I am sure people of our 2 countries will be able to move freely. I did not declare my allegiance to Bangladesh to see that people should queue up in front of my embassy. In fact, last time in a meeting, I told the Indian side that I am past 65, so we should at least give 5 years entry visa to our 65 plus citizenship. And today a gentleman came to my embassy and he applied for 5 years, and I promptly said, I will issue you 5 years visa. 5 years, you can go as many times as you want to, and as many times as you want to, you can go and stay for 90 days at a time. So I want to expand this further. 65, maybe someday it will be 60. Why not? Someday I will remove it altogether. So on the bilateral side, frankly speaking, I have every reason to be very happy at the progress. But there are kuch na kuch to hota hai. Now water sharing remains a problem. Now let me clarify. Water sharing between Bangladesh and India is actually for 3 months. Baki no maina, the rest of the 9 months, Bhagavan, God, Allah gives us enough water. In fact, we have more than enough, and we have floods. This year, we had very serious floods. Our problem is we don't know how to hold this water. In fact, the amount of fresh water that we receive in the South Asian region is a cause of envy to a large number of our friends, those who are coming from West Asia and Maghreb, because they don't get that much of water. Unfortunately, we are unable to store this water. Secondly, because of the various small-scale projects, we have consistently created problems for our rivers. We are not dredging those rivers in time. Consequently, the river bed is rising. Its capacity to hold water is becoming more and more limited. Now, अभी तो तीस्ता के बारे में थोड़ी बात करना ज़रूरी है. I have to speak a bit on Tista. Tista is a river which originated in Sikkim and it ends in Bangladesh. So Tista, Sikkim, West Bengal, Bangladesh. यहाँ कोई बाहर का कोई आदमी नहीं है. अदर देन हम दोनों और कोई नहीं है. इस नदी को if you see, पहले सिक्किम ने unplanned small scale projects can create problem for all of us. First, Sikkim created some hydroelectric projects. So the river accepted the first attack. Then it entered West Bengal. West Bengal created a major barrage project and discharged water from the Tista basin to the Ganges basin. अभी हम कहते हैं कि तीस्ता में पानी नहीं है. It is something like killing your parents and then saying I am an orphan. I mean, we have done the damage. Then the river came to Bangladesh side. President Ershad at one time decided he must also have a barrage. So Tista said enough is enough. Right? It's a murder in the Orient Express. Everybody decides to give one step. My summation is, I lived in States after my retirement for long 15 years. The rivers are very sensitive things. We all must take note of it. And only after detailed calculation, any project should be undertaken. मैं अगर कहूँ Farakka has not helped you at all, you all know it has not. Why? Because the technical side of every small-scale project in South Asia is faulty. It has been done by CNB engineers. But if we want to have a major project, then we must require international funding and collaboration, both in terms of technical as well as resource constraint. And I think the only treaty which has so far been successful, quote unquote, is the Indus Basin project, which was signed in 60s between India and Pakistan for the distribution of the 6 rivers. It has so far worked reasonably well. But then your requirements are also growing, their requirements are also growing, so you'll have to review this. Now, obviously, आप लोग सब तो मुझ पे देख रहे हैं, एक सवाल पूछना है, पूछ नहीं सकते, तो मैं बता देता हूँ. You are all looking at me and certainly want to ask me the question, but आपका शर्मिंदा है कि शर्मिंदे को कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, मैं खुद ही कर रहा हूँ. Right now we are facing a huge humanitarian disaster called Rohingya crisis. The Rohingya crisis क्या है? What is the Rohingya crisis? The crisis is very simple. We in South Asia have been living with multiple ethnic communities here. Even a country like Bangladesh has 2 million non-Muslim tribal population, Chakmas, Marmas, Garos, Sautal, Manipuris, and whatnot. And they have been living as free citizens. In our neighborhood, Arakan and Rakhine has always been inhabited by a group of people who were not Buddhist. They were Hindus and they were Muslims, predominantly Muslims. In fact, they settled there before the advent of Islam, and some of them actually were converted to Islam when the Arab traders landed in Rakhine area in the past. Arakan was an independent princely state until the then Burma had occupied it. Then the British captured the Burma and kept Rakhine as an independent province. In fact, Burma was a part of British Indian Empire until 1937. In 1938, British decided to make Burma a separate state. For the last 60 years, it is the inability of the Myanmar authorities to recognize these people as their citizens has been causing the problem. As of today, 536,000 people have taken shelter in Bangladesh. This is in addition to the 300,000 people who have been living there from the past. We believe that this problem, which originated in Myanmar, needs to be resolved in Myanmar. And my Prime Minister, during her presentation to the UN General Assembly, has submitted a 5-point plan. I'm sure you've all read about her plan. If you want, I can read out the 5-point plan. Otherwise, if you have it, sure, why not? Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, number 1 condition, she said, Myanmar must unconditionally stop the violence and the practice of ethnic cleansing in the Rakhine state immediately and forever. This is the number 1. Unfortunately, they have not. Even today, we are receiving fresh refugees from Myanmar. During the last 2 days, we have received 10,000 people. Number 2, Secretary General of the United Nations should immediately send a fact-finding mission to Myanmar. Unfortunately, Myanmar has not allowed the UN team to visit Rakhine area. Number 3, all civilians, irrespective of religion and ethnicity, must be protected in Myanmar. For that, safe zone could be created inside the Myanmar under the UN supervision. Number 4, ensure sustainable return of all forcibly displaced Rohingyas in Bangladesh to their homes in Myanmar. And number 5, the recommendation of the Kofi Annan Commission should be immediately implemented unconditionally and in its entirety. Now, after she delivered this speech, I have seen a series of statements have been issued by the UN. The Secretary General has called it a humanitarian disaster of catastrophic proportion. The UN Human Rights Council Chairman has called it a classic case of ethnic cleansing. Then the Security Council met twice and they have authorized the Secretary General to take necessary steps, and he has been taking them in touch with the Myanmarese authority. The Myanmar minister did come to visit Bangladesh, and we did discuss with him, and he said that they are going to work out a formula for the return of these refugees to their country, provided through a verification process of 1992. Now, there has been a significant change on the situation, on the ground. Thousands of houses have been burned down, and the size and dimension of the influx is so huge that right now perhaps more population live in the neighboring countries than in Rakhine itself. As you know, the Rohingyas are now spread all over the world. 150,000 of them live in Malaysia. 200,000 live in Saudi Arabia. 40,000 live in India. And according to some estimate, about 57,000 live in Pakistan. Bangladesh, we have something like 800,000 to 900,000 living right now. So they are spread all over the world. And there are famous international magazines which are calling them as new Palestinians. And I'm sure you all would appreciate the dangerous implications that it holds good for our region. We certainly expect, and we certainly are working together with our Indian friends on this issue. And India has come forward in a big way in terms of providing relief assistance. 3 airload supplies have been delivered. A ship has been anchored in our port town recently. And India is also making very categorical statement at the UN Human Rights Council. But let us be very clear on the subject that the Rohingya issue is a major security concern for the region. It is a fire in our neighborhood, and before it engulfs all of us, we must put it out. Because these uprooted persons from their hearts and homes are vulnerable to all kinds of radicalization, as has been pointed out by the UN Secretary General himself. And he has also cautioned that many of the women and children could be the victim of trafficking. So it is in our mutual advantage to work together and to resolve this issue as quickly as we can. Otherwise, they could fall in the wrong hands and could be exploited for various actions. And we do not want that to happen. Basically, India as our neighbor, India with common borders with both Myanmar and Bangladesh, and as a prime mover for the BIMSTEC process, should take more initiative so that these people are returned to their home where they could live in safety and dignity. It is better to keep them in their own home than to throw them out and they take as destitutes and totally devastated kind of people Rohingyas are in a very dire straits since 1982, when their citizenship was taken away. They can't go to any school. So for 35 years, these Rohingyas have never been to any school. Rohingyas can't go to any hospital. Rohingyas can't marry even without the permission of the police. So it's a devastating situation, uneducated, illiterate, totally desperate population living in this country. The sooner we can let them return to their country, it is better for us. We have no problem with Myanmar whatsoever bilaterally. Only issue that we had with Myanmar in the past was the demarcation of maritime boundary, which we have also resolved with them in the past through the UN arbitration. So bilaterally with Myanmar we have no problem. It is the Myanmar which must recognize their own citizens and take them back and settle them in their own land. Otherwise, my own region, unfortunately, will become a new ground for all kinds of terrorist activities. So here I would like to stop. Maybe I have crossed the limit of 15 minutes long ago. But I thought I should at least tell you exactly what are the things on my plate. And you are quite free to ask me any question you like to.
Thank you, High Commissioner. Now, the House is open to Q&A. Ramesh, please identify yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, High Commissioner. My name is Ramesh Ramachandran. I'm with WION Television. Thank you for your fairly comprehensive presentation, but may I begin by asking about another issue that is in the news in Bangladesh, and that has got to do with Justice Surendra Kumar Sinha. Now, we've heard from the judiciary, we heard from Justice Sinha himself and the opposition, but would you like to take this opportunity to clarify the Bangladesh government's position? Why is the government on a collision course with the judiciary? Why the 16th Amendment is so important for the government? And how do you intend to dispel the charges of you taking on the judiciary? Thank you.
Ramesh, thank you very much. First of all, let me clarify. मैं सिविल सर्वेंट हूँ. दो चीज़ के बारे में कभी मैं बात नहीं करता हूँ. एक है ससुराल की बात कभी नहीं करता हूँ, क्योंकि एट द एंड ऑफ द डे मेरा बीवी मुझे पकड़ेगी, दरवाज़ा बंद हो जाएगी, तो बिटवीन मी एंड माई गॉड. तो मैं ससुराल के बारे में कभी पब्लिकली नहीं बात करता. और दूसरी बात नहीं करता हूँ ये जस्टिस और कोर्ट के देगी, क्योंकि हम कुछ कहे कि ना कहे हम कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट करके 6 महीना डेट देते रहेंगे और हम हाजिर होते रहेंगे. लेकिन आपने सवाल पूछ ही लिया तो मुझे कुछ ना कुछ तो कहना ही पड़ेगा. I hope you everybody understands Hindi. If anybody doesn't, I will be very happy to translate. Okay, fine, no problem. Justice Sinha has applied for leave to the President, and this is in writing. And in his application, he has mentioned that he is suffering from old age complications and that he had cancer in the past and he requires a long leave to undertake further treatment in Australia. Naturally, if he wants to take leave, the President has granted him. If he is sick, if he is not sick, whatever it is, he would like to come back and would like to resume his duties. Justice Sinha, incidentally, is from my same district. He is from Molvi Bazar, my home district. My home district houses 26,000 Manipuri citizens. Manipuris, not citizens, Manipuri persons. And Manipur has 150,000 Manipuris. 1/6 of Manipuris live in my subdivision. And Justice Sinha, I know him very closely. He has been here twice. He has been complaining about health condition for some time. Yes, he and the government might have been at loggerheads on some of the issues, but it has nothing to do with the government. If Justice Sinha wants to come back and join tomorrow morning, I'm sure the court will take him again. He has applied for a leave for certain days, but he is quite free. If his treatment is over, he can always come back and join. But this has nothing to do with our bilateral relations between Bangladesh and India, nor it will anyway solve my Rohingya issue. तो जस्टिस सिन्हा के हम प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर लेंगे इंशाल्लाह. अब 5,36,000 जो है उनका सॉल्व करना और ज़रूरी हो गया. Anything else?
Sir, I'm Sridhar from the Asian Age and Deccan Chronicle. You met the Foreign Secretary, Mr. Jaishankar, recently in a very publicized meeting. It leaked out in the media, and there was a lot of curiosity about what transpired. And you must have also been reading the reports in the Indian newspapers about the fact that the Indian government is not too keen to allow the Rohingyas to stay on, and the matter is in the Supreme Court. So, are you happy with the views of the Indian government on this issue? And could you tell us something about what broadly transpired in the meeting between you and Mr. Jaishankar? Did you complain about the fact that India had not put enough pressure on Myanmar to solve this problem? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I met Foreign Secretary Jaishankar soon after Prime Minister Modi's visit to Myanmar. And I did mention that we have read the joint declaration with keen interest. And we felt that as a regional power, India should also take a comprehensive view of the overall situation. And there I mentioned how it is going to affect the security and the demographic pressure that we will be all experiencing. Jaishankar explained to me, yes, the refugees from the Myanmar will surely inundate the area. And Bangladesh has been affected, but to some extent India will also, at some stage, will also face the challenge. So there was a new statement which was issued by the Indian Ministry of Spokesman, and there he has given a more broad picture. And I'm sure on the basis of that position, India's permanent representative at the UN Human Rights Council also issued a very categorical statement where he expressed grave concern at the violation of human rights. I'm sure you have read his statement, I don't need to read it back. And India has also joined the Human Rights Commission's consensus regarding the mandate of the UN Committee for investigating the crimes in Myanmar. The other countries, some of them have abstained, like Myanmar, but India has joined this. So I do see all this thing as a very positive sign. As much as I mentioned before, India has also sent significant amount of relief supplies to Bangladesh. I do hope that during Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj's visit to Bangladesh, there will be more discussion between the two foreign ministers, and we would be able to work out a plan for joint action by our both countries. Because both Myanmar and India and Bangladesh, we are all members of the BIMSTEC, and we all are trying to establish connectivity among us. And it is absolutely essential that we should like to remove all these irritants. So what has happened so far is good. Maybe we will be able to strengthen it further after Sushma Swaraj's visit. Initially, when this resolution was adopted, it was basically done before the mass exodus had actually started. So, to some extent, I would say India has updated its position in the light of the mass exodus that took place soon after Prime Minister Modi's visit. So, in international relationship, we are always updating our position. So this is exactly how it has been done. And we'll continue to cooperate with India. There is no question of not cooperating with India, because Myanmar has the longest border with India, and then also a border with Bangladesh. And Rohingyas, obviously, if they are uprooted from their hearts and homes, they will create problem, particularly for our two countries. Yes?
So, my name is Narayanan, working for German public broadcaster ARD. My question is, Bangladesh government has a grand plan to make Cox's Bazar the tourism hub of Bangladesh. And in connection with that, there is a plan to take all these 3 lakh Rohingyas to an island near Bay of Bengal, somewhere in Bay of Bengal. Is this plan still on, or?
Has any one of you visited these refugee camps? Yes, you have. Anyone else? You have no interest, भाई? 500,000 आदमी वीसा नहीं मिलता। वीसा तो हम जरूर काल ही दे देंगे। कौन कौन जाना मांगता है बोलते हैं, आप जाना मांगते हैं? You are going? फैसिलिटेट का मतलब क्या? वीसा देना है तो वीसा दे देंगे। JTR का फ्लाइट है, वहाँ एयरपोर्ट पे छोड़ सकते हैं। You have just come back from Bangladesh. Okay. Have you seen the camps? Yes. Okay. Give me your own perception. Do you think we should keep them for the next 6 months?
It is disastrous. Government is still there. So many people there.
I don't want to keep them for 6 days even, honestly. If Myanmar takes them back tomorrow, I would like to transport them back to Myanmar tomorrow morning. Because this is absolutely unacceptable kind of condition where they are living. They have literally made some temporary arrangement. My country is trying to expedite their quickest return. In fact, I think I saw something in Kofi Annan's statement today, that the refugees should not be accommodated in the camps. They should be taken back to their hearts and homes. Yes, I think this is what Kofi Annan has said today. Former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan urged Myanmar on Friday to make sure that the 500,000 Rohingya Muslim refugees who have fled in the last 2 months can go home and not go to camps. Myanmar government needs to create conditions that will allow the refugees to return with dignity, with a sense of security, and help them rebuild in violence-wrecked Rakhine state, said Mr. Annan, who recently headed a commission on the crisis there. The Kofi Annan Commission, incidentally, is a Myanmarese commission. It was actually Kofi Annan who was made the chairman of the group, but rest of the members are all the ministers and the other officials of Myanmar. And they themselves had accepted a solution that this Rakhine should be given residency card or something like this, pending grant of full citizenship. So we thought it is a stepping stone. So a stepping stone is still better. And we still believe that although Kofi Annan Commission report has not fully resolved this issue, but at least it will be an interim solution which will lead to the permanent solution to the problem. The area where they are living, they are creating ecological major problem for us because 168 hillocks have been leveled completely. And I think I read somewhere 68,000 crores of wood and plantation have been damaged. So we will like to see how quickly international community can take back these refugees. Yes, Shubha.
This is Shubhajyoti from BBC World Service, and His Excellency, you have preempted most of the questions and answered accordingly. So I have to reframe my one.
Sure.
And again, coming back to the Rohingya crisis, I mean, do you think at this moment India and Bangladesh are on the same page in tackling the crisis? I mean, why I'm asking this, Indian Home Ministry have already filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court stating that Rohingyas are considered as national security threat. Is Bangladesh of the same opinion that they could pose a security threat to Bangladesh's security? And the other thing is, if India stick to their decision to deport 40,000 odd Rohingyas to their country, Indian establishment believes most of them have come through Bangladesh, not directly from Myanmar, through Bangladesh. If there has been any attempt to push back them to Bangladesh, what would be your take on that?
So should I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, as regards the Supreme Court and your decision to deport your Rohingyas who have committed certain crimes here is an internal matter of your country. And I'm sure it will be extremely inappropriate for me as a foreign diplomat to comment on this issue when it is a sub judice. I am telling you that the 60% of my refugees, as my friend has just returned, are ladies, children, and elderly people. So with this huge population, I cannot term them as terrorists for the simple reason that they are in a position, desperate position. Today I was looking at some newspaper and it talks about something like 14,000 orphans whose shelter has been Bangladesh for the last 2 months. And these orphans have lost their parents during the crisis. So naturally, in our case, the size is much bigger, and we will have to take the humanitarian side of this story. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina made it very clear. Out of humanitarian crisis, out of humanitarian consideration, we will give them shelter, but not for too long. We want international community to help them to get back to their homes. As regards your deportation, you will have to accept the ground realities. The deportation is always done between the two countries. And the two countries is the accepting country and the sending country. If you think the Rohingyas will be accepted as citizens of Myanmar, then certainly it will be between Myanmar government and the Indian government. The Myanmari citizens, displaced persons, obviously have taken shelter here and have been living here for a number of decades here. So your internal dynamics will determine your case. In my case, it is 10 times, 11 times, or 20 times larger. So you are a Bengali. So let me explain to you. You will understand it is Tagore's poem. One who is not afraid of the sea, how can he be afraid of the dew? Shagore shior jar shishire ki bhoy. Shubhajit. So I am not scared of your dew. I am not scared of the sea. How can I be scared of the dew? So my problem is much larger. India is not on the same page. You have asked me this question. Let me explain. India may not appear to be on the same page as we are for the simple reason Rakhine is not your neighboring region. If Rakhine was your neighboring region, obviously you would have faced the same music. तो ठीक है तुम अभी तो बच गए, लेकिन कितने दिन बचोगे? Honestly, what else can I tell him? I'll be as frank with him as anything, because Rakhine, unfortunately, is my province. Now, obviously, you people are talking about there are a lot of natural gas, port facilities, this and that, etc. But security अगर नहीं रहेगा तो कुछ भी नहीं रहेगा. So naturally, it is in our common interest to ensure security. And secondly, don't underestimate, there are separatist elements, there are insurgents in your northeast. They have been trying to look for this kind of people whom they could hire. Would you feel comfortable with the fire in the neighborhood? It might burn my house today, but it will surely have some impact on your house tomorrow. So if there is a fire in the region, let's put it out as fast as we can. Yes, ma'am.
Last two questions.
Smita Sharma from the Tribune. You said the UN Fact-Finding Commission, of course, has not been allowed in. But a fortnight ago, the diplomatic corps based in Yangon, they were made to travel to Rakhine. The Indian ambassador was also a part of the delegation. Wondering if the Bangladesh envoy was a part of it. Have you seen any visible, concrete change in Myanmar's attitude since that televised address of Aung San Suu Kyi? And on the issue of Tista, if it's not signed in the days to come, do you see it having the potential to become an issue that can be exploited by the opposition in Bangladesh and can cost you heavily in the elections? Is that a politically very kind of a hot fireball for you?
Okay. Our ambassador has visited Rakhine area along with the ambassador of India and other neighboring countries. There has been significant destruction of the entire region, and the Myanmar side have kept on expressing their desire to take them back. But I have not seen anything concrete so far, to answer your question, to indicate that Myanmar is going to take any immediate steps for their return. Secondly, as regards Tista, Prime Minister Modi, you would kindly recall, had assured my Prime Minister that during his tenure and her tenure, this issue will be resolved. I am sure when Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj will visit Dhaka, we will exchange our views on this issue and see how much progress we have been able to make so far. As regards your other questions, surely water is a highly emotive, sensitive issue, and it has always played a significant part in Bangladesh politics. And water sharing has always been a very sensitive issue between our two countries. So again, for the sake of stability, sake of continuity, the sooner we can resolve the Tista issue, the better we do.
Ashok.
Ashok ji,
Your
boliye.
Excellency,
जी yes sir.
I am Ashok Sharma.
हाँ जी अशोक.
I am a freelance journalist. Myanmar maintains that the Rakhine people are Bengali speaking and they are illegal migrants from Bangladesh. What have you to say on this?
Okay.
Number two, as per reports we find in different media sources that there was mass burial of Hindus in Rakhine, and there are Hindu migrants who are taking shelter from in Bangladesh who are from Rakhine, and they are how do you differentiate between the two migrants? Number three is that there are reports, even particularly the Myanmar sources say that these are terrorists and they have international links with terrorist organization. What have you to say on this?
और नंबर 4 नहीं है. चलो 4 भी मर लो. Number 1, to answer it one by one, because otherwise I will forget what he asked. आपने कभी म्यांमार में गए हैं? Have you been to Myanmar ever? बांग्लादेश में गए हैं? बांग्लादेश गए हैं. अच्छा शुक्र. Have you been to that area which separates us between Myanmar and Bangladesh?
No, I have not gone to that.
You haven't gone to the Myanmar side, but have you been to Bangladesh side?
Yes, Bangladesh.
Okay. We have 2 million tribal people. Some of them came from Myanmar side, Marmas, Tipras, Chakmas, and they live happily on our side. Arakan historically has been a province, a princely kingdom, basically. And they have been there before advent of Islam even, with a sizable population. They became Muslim much later, when the Arab traders actually migrated.
Are they Bengali speaking?
They are not Bengali speaking, they have a special dialect, which is a combination of Bengali and Arakan language. To tell me that the Bangladeshis have gone from $1,600 per capita income to an area which is less than $300 doesn't make much of a sense, because human resource development wise, Bangladesh has better indicative figures than many of its neighboring countries even. And for a Bangladeshi to go to Myanmar doesn't make any sense. Bangladeshis, if they want to go anywhere, they would like to go to a place where they can significantly improve their lot. In Bangladesh, they have free schooling, free medical facilities, free everything. Why should they go to Myanmar and suffer the ignominy where a Mog soldier can come and kill them anytime? Do you understand a Bengali saying which says Moger Mulluk? Do you understand the term? How many Bengalis are here? Okay, you understand. Magar Mulluk means the land of Mag, where no rule ever exists. Dada, no South Asian will ever volunteer to go to Magar Mulluk, Mugh's land. These Mughs have raped every woman in that Arakan province, Hindu, Muslim, all inclusive. The Hindu women, those who took the shelter in Bangladesh, you are very concerned about their security? Yes, I am. I have made separate camps for them. You must have visited. The Myanmarese side intentionally tried to do this divide and rule policy just to prove that these are the terrorists and these have killed the Hindus and everything, so they should be punished. Punished, yes, we are all for taking anti-terrorist campaign, but to drive out 600,000 people from the home, it cannot be called an anti-terrorist campaign. आपका third definition about terrorism in 71, Pakistan is called a terrorist. आपने पाकिस्तानी को believe किया था कि मुझे believe किया था? Who did you believe? बोलिए, आप बोलिए. You say, I am the freedom fighter of 71. पाकिस्तान ने क्या कहा था? आपको याद दिला दूं? In Washington, where I was posted, the Pakistani propaganda was certain misguided elements are creating problems and insurgents. When we declared our allegiance to Bangladesh, the Washington Post wrote in bold letters, these are the Pakistani diplomats till yesterday, and they are not misguided youth. If somebody is forced out of his country, his sister is raped in front of him, his mother is raped in front of him, obviously these are the breeding ground for radicalization. Do you accept it or you don't accept it? आप accept करते हैं? नहीं करते. इसमें कोई black and white नहीं है, ये सीधा साधा जवाब देना पड़ेगा. आपको अगर आपका सामने ऐसा किया होता, what you would have done? I am sure it's a breeding ground for radicalization. It is not my saying. UN Secretary General is saying. And for how long it has been continuing? Since 1948. Up to 1982, they had their full citizenship. When the military took over, they took away this citizenship. So I do not want this extraordinary situation to remain there. And believe me, not a single Bangladeshi is going to opt for that hell to go there as an illegal immigrant to Myanmar and Rakhine province.
Last question, Parul.
I'm Parul Chandra. I'm a freelance journalist. The Sark summit last year was boycotted by India along with all the remaining Sark nations. Now it's unlikely that the summit is going to be held this year. Where does Bangladesh stand on this, this non-holding of the summit? Do you think that this stand should continue? Does it not affect the Sark spirit?
Finished?
Yeah.
Only one, Sark?
Yeah.
और कुछ नहीं. देखो भाई, when Sark was launched, I was a director in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That was way back in 1980. When we had launched Sark, there were two objectives. First objective was, if we have a regional cooperation forum we can initially discuss non-controversial issues. And it would create necessary conditions, conducive conditions for discussion of hardcore economic issues. The first meeting of Sark, we discussed about postal telecommunication, malaria eradication, construction of bridges, and inoculation of children. These were totally harmless. So with the passage of time, we have moved up to SAFTA, South Asian Free Trade Association. So this has been a gradual progression. Sark never discusses any bilateral issues, but Sark provides an unique opportunity to the leaders of the South Asian countries to discuss bilateral issues on the sideline of the conference. So when I was in Pakistan Foreign Office, way back in 1968-69, at that time it was impossible for us to arrange a meeting between the then President Ayub Khan and the Indian Prime Minister. There was no way. So we thought the Sark would always provide this opportunity. And from 1985 to 2016, at every summit meeting, the Prime Ministers of India and Bangladesh, India and Pakistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and so on and so forth, everybody met and discussed these issues. The process has now been kept on suspension. That's not the first time. In the past also, sometimes the Sark summits were not held for 2 years. So don't get too despondent. We will try to resolve a formula soon. And I can resolve a formula if I was in Sark, that we can hold the next summit meeting instead of Pakistan, maybe in another venue, if there is an emerging consensus. And that would solve the problem. So our problems are normally look very, very difficult, but it normally has a very easy solution, provided we can agree. So Sark Secretariat is based in Nepal. The current chairman is Nepal, and they are undertaking consultations with all the member countries. We do hope that they would be able to resolve this matter and we can hold the Sark summit soon. Nepal is also going to be the chairman, which is going to host the next BIMSTEC meeting. So they are undertaking a lot of consultation with us regarding the holding of the BIMSTEC also. But BIMSTEC is not a solution, not an alternative to Sark either. BIMSTEC is an inter-regional organization between South and Southeast Asian region. South Asian region cooperation is only for Sark, and which includes all the members of our region. I am hopeful that we will be able to resolve this matter, and maybe in 2018 we could think of holding the next Sark summit.
If I may just ask a supplementary, India seems to be using BIMSTEC to isolate Pakistan.
No, BIMSTEC was launched in 1996. पहले तो इसका नाम था बिस्टेक, आपको याद होगा, बांग्लादेश, इंडिया, श्रीलंका, Thai Economic Cooperation. Then Myanmar joined in 97 and it became BIMSTEC. Then Nepal, Bhutan joined. But so far as Sark is concerned, there are a number of issues which involve the other countries of the region, particularly Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives. So 3 member countries are out of BIMSTEC. On the other hand, BIMSTEC has a different kind of priorities. In BIMSTEC, our 2 main issues are connectivity and trade. In Sark, there are no dearth of issues. We have to discuss every issue. So Sark is a different subject, BIMSTEC is a different subject.
Just a small clarification. You just mentioned on Parul's question that maybe the Sark, next Sark summit can be held somewhere else, outside of Pakistan. But Pakistan has made it very clear that if it has to be held, it has to be held in Islamabad.
So it's not as, it's very confident that.
Well, as I said, if there is an agreement, because after all, in Sark, you have taken this decision that every decision must be taken by consensus. Uska to ek history hai. If you want me to discuss this history, I can go back to the...
Pakistan says no, it has to be held here. Then how can you have
देखो भाई, in international relations there is nothing called a final answer भाई. Politics में तो कोई final answer नहीं होता है. But let me tell you, the consensus making process was insisted at the beginning because some member countries felt that there would be an attempt to gang up against them. So consensus was taken as the number one basis. There are two things which we adopted towards SARC. One is the consensus, and the second one was don't discuss bilateral issues. But bilateral issues and consensus, both of them, we have to some extent made some variations. मैं आपको बताऊं, the motor vehicle agreement was accepted that everybody, all SARC countries will accept. Pakistan decided to raise an objection. We said, okay, in that case we can have a sub-regional PPI between Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. Bhutan has some problem today. So we have said, okay, Bhutan has some problem, we will have it between Nepal, Bangladesh and India. So we are quite open and flexible on some issue. As regards the holding of the SARC summit, I am sure our chairman Nepal is undertaking due consideration. And I am sure there will be more opportunities to see and ways and means how best we can adopt it.